Our movie begins in a room where there's several boys, and some armed men. One of the men uses an electric clipper to cut the hair of the boys. One of the boys has a tattoo of 3 dots on the back of his foot, just below his heel. We see a storage space, where a man picks out a file of Nawal Marwan. Inside, he takes a sealed envelope and goes back to the office where a man and a woman are waiting. In this envelope is Nawal's will. Before he begins to read, the lawyer, Jean Lebel, tells the children that he didn't want their mother to do what she wrote in the will. But when she pleaded with him, he couldn't refuse her. Nawal wanted her twins to share her assets, the money, and the furniture, according to what they agreed on. For her burial, Nawal said that she wants the children, in presence of Jean, to bury her naked without any coffin or prayers. Now, this doesn't sit well with either child. Jean continues reading Nawal's instructions, which specify that Nawal be buried face to the ground, with no tombstone or epitaph. She failed to keep her promise while alive, and those who don't keep promises don't deserve a proper burial. Nawal said in her will that Jean Lebel will hand over an envelope to Jeanne. It's for her father. She instructs Jeanne to find her father and give him the letter. Simon also gets an envelope containing a letter for their brother. But Simon isn't having it. He's heard enough. Jean Lebel says there's still more instructions in Nawal's will and continues on, explaining that their names are on the letters. Her promise will be kept only when the letters are given to the recipients. At that point, she'll get a tombstone for her grave. After Lebel finishes reading this will, he admits the conditions are a bit unique. Simon asks if there's anything to sign. Lebel tells him that there's nothing at the moment, so Simon rises to leave, and Jeanne stops him. She says they know the story of their father, and they have no brother. So why would their mother give them this kind of bizarre instruction? Lebel tells them that he's surprised himself, but Simon is furious, demanding to know why he's making things up. Lebel, of course, tells him he can't make things up in a client's will. So Lebel gives Jeanne an envelope containing a passport and a crucifix and tells them to sleep on everything. Before we get on with it, like the video, smash that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to join our expendable squad. Simon says his mother was Lebel's secretary. He can bury her any way he wants. But Lebel once again reminds them that they will have to fulfill her conditions to bury her the usual way. There's no other way around it. Having gone through the passport, Jeanne apologizes to Lebel. He asks them to come back when Simon has calmed down. And Lebel tells Jeanne he knows the conditions are unusual, but their mother wasn't crazy. Outside, Simon tells Jeanne that he'll talk to Lebel and find a way to give their mother a typical burial. Together, they'll take care of their mother, and he'll take care of Jeanne. Simon knows she's feeling guilty because she wasn't there when her mother had her accident, but Jeanne denies feeling guilty about anything. When Simon asks Jeanne if he realizes what Lebel just read, she simply says she's at peace now. So in class, Jeanne's distracted while the professor is lecturing. The professor introduces her to the class as his assistant, and she takes over for him, continuing the lecture. Back in the office, the professor asks her what her intuition is telling her. He believes she has the potential to become a real mathematician because her instinct is always right. He asks if she has any family or contacts in the country that she can turn to. But Jeanne says everything happening is ridiculous. Like a mathematician, Neve, the professor, lists out all of the problems. He tells her that she has to find out the truth. If she doesn't, her spirit will never be at peace. Jeanne tells Neve her father died in the war in Daresh, but Neve calls that an unknown variable, and she can't start with an unknown variable. She mentions her mother's village and that she studied French at the university in Daresh. Neve looks through an old contacts book and gives her the contact of an old friend, Saeed Haidar, who teaches at the university in Daresh. He says that he's trustworthy and that she should start from there. So she's going through her mother's stuff to find if anything is helpful for this journey. And after looking through her clothes, she finds a picture of a young Nawal standing behind a wall with an Arabic inscription written on it. Jeanne stares at an empty pool, her mind going back in time. She's swimming in the pool when she notices Nawal sitting on one of the pool seats, staring into space. She asks what's wrong, but Nawal doesn't answer. And meanwhile, Simon's walking through the corridor of an overcrowded hospital. And finally, he finds Nawal and asks where Jian is. The doctor asks her if Nawal suffers from migraines or a memory loss. Jian says no to all his questions. Nawal's now in a hospital room, Simon pacing while Jian sits on one of the chairs. Nawal staring into space. We travel even further back into Nawal's past as she runs through a rocky terrain. She meets up with a man, Wahab, hugs him, and they run together. They both meet a man who whistles to others. Wahab tries to protect Nawal as the man approaches. This man is Nicholas, Nawal's brother. He calls Wahab the son of a refugee and tells him to go back to his country. Now Wahab and Nawal are trying to elope. Nawal tries to stop her brother, but another brother comes out and tells her to go home. Nicholas brings out a gun and shoots Wahab in the face. As Nawal's kneeling over Wahab, Nicholas raises the gun to shoot her too, but the other brother takes the gun from him. She doesn't look at him. Halas, the older brother, points the gun at Nawal, telling her she's praying for her sin, sullying the family name. He's about to shoot when a woman's voice calls in the distance. She curses at the two men for wanting to kill their sister. At home, her sister asks Nawal why she tried to elope with Wahab, and she reveals that she's pregnant. Her grandmother is livid. She keeps screaming in Arabic. In the end, both of them are crying, and the grandmother offers her some comfort. Nawal's grandmother is outside with her rosary, with Halas and Nicholas standing guard. They can hear Nawal's screams inside the house. The grandmother tells Nawal to go to the city with her uncle, telling her that there's nothing in the village for her anymore. Her grandmother makes her promise she'll go to school. Tears are running down her cheeks as she makes that promise. Nawal gives birth to a boy, and her grandmother gives the baby a tattoo, 3 dots at the back of his foot. Before they take the baby to the orphanage, Nawal promises that she'll find him one day. So Jian arrives at Daresh and immediately goes to the university to find Saeed. But when he can't help her, she goes to the university's office and asks about her mother. The receptionist says that she wasn't born when her mother was in the university and that there's no way that she can help her. But she directs her to Najat, who looks at Nawal's picture and identifies the location as Kfar Rayat, a prison in the south. Nawal works in the campus newspaper, fighting for Muslims. One of her fellow journalists asks Nawal why she's fighting for Muslims when she's a Christian. They hear a noise and look outside, seeing that the nationalists have closed the university's campus. She tells her uncle what's happening and tells him that there might be clashes. Nawal's listening to the news on the radio as gunshots are echoing in the distance. During a meal, Nawal's uncle tells the family they have to move to the mountains until the chaos in the city calms down. Nawal's cousin asks about school, telling her the school would be closed. So that night, Nawal gets stressed, noting that there are 2 orphanages in the city. She says she's not leaving the city without finding her son. So her cousin reminds her of her promise to her grandmother, but Nawal reminds her cousin there's no school. Even though the cousin disagrees, they hug. Nawal's walking through empty streets, always looking for her son. We shoot back to the present. Jian is on a bus heading to the south. She gets to a military checkpoint, where she presents her mother's passport and assumes her identity. The military allows her through, and she goes through the now abandoned prison. At her mother's childhood home, Jian calls Simon and tells him she wishes that he was here. So she meets with a group of women. At first, the women are hospitable and receptive, but when they realize who Jian is looking for, they become pretty cold, insisting that they don't want to know her mother. They start speaking in Arabic, which Jian doesn't understand, saying Nawal brought some shame to the Marwan name. And when she asks of Wahab, they say they don't know him and can't help her, telling her she's not welcome and that she should go home. We see Nawal again. An explosion leaves her with a head injury. The orphanage has been blown up, the city suffering massive damage. Nawal talks to a masked fighter, telling him she's looking for her son. Soon, she's recruited into the militia and given a task to kill a prominent militia leader. She infiltrates the leader's household by becoming his son's French teacher. Now, things are going well until she receives the instructions to kill the man. So she arrives at the militia leader's compound, going through the checkpoint, preparing to teach the boy. Later, she leaves the boy, carrying a brown bag. She removes her heels so she won't make a sound, walks to where the leader and his guests are, and shoots him. She's arrested for her crime and thrown into prison where her hair is cut, being tortured and kept in a tiny cell. So we're back in the present. Jian taken to a now empty prison. The tour guide shows her around and tells her the history of the prison. And from there, she's directed to a prison guard who's now a janitor at a school. When Jian shows Nawal's picture, the guard identifies her as the singing prisoner who killed the militia leader. He says Nawal spent 15 years in prison, and she was always singing. The guard says they tried to break her for the 13 years he was there, but she never broke. He said it was frustrating that she was the only one left standing despite all the efforts to break her. So they sent Abu Tarek. Jian asks who this guy is, and the janitor says Abu is a torture specialist. He repeatedly raped Nawal until he broke her. The janitor knew that she was broken because she stopped singing. But Jian says that she wasn't broken. She stopped singing because she needed to save her strength for her babies. The guard says they waited for Nawal to have her babies before releasing her. Jian gets emotional, fighting to hold back the tears. An emotional Jian calls Simon, telling him everything that happened to Nawal and begging him to come to Daresh. Now we see Nawal pacing herself frantically as a woman, handcuffed and hooded, and taken to a cell where a soldier's waiting. The door's locked, and a woman can be heard screaming. Nawal hears the woman screaming from her cell and starts to sing. As the scream grows louder, Nawal's voice goes higher. Now, it's Nawal's turn to be cuffed and hooded, and as she's taken to the cell, she starts singing. In the cell, Abu Tarek, who walks around a sitting Nawal several times without speaking, has a look of amusement on his face. Then he rapes Nawal, and before he leaves, he tells a sobbing Nawal to sing. So Nawal's in her cell, checking her protruding belly. The guards are alerted as Nawal tries to beat the pregnancy out of her body, and in the end, she has to be cuffed in her cell. She's taken to the delivery room as the nurse helps her out. Then she tells a shocked Nawal that another baby's coming. After the delivery, the nurse takes the twins out of prison. Labelle and Simon arrive in Daresh, where they meet with Madadi, a lawyer, to help in their search. When Simon meets with Jian, she gives him the address of the nurse who helped Nawal. Simon's still hesitant, but Jian reminds him that it's his job. She says if Simon doesn't do it for their mother, he should do it for their brother. Simon follows Jian out of the hotel room. The four of them find the nurse who helped their mother deliver when she was in prison. She's older now and a patient in the hospital. They introduce themselves, and when they ask about Nawal, the nurse starts to cry. She says she knows Jian and Simon are Nawal's children. She took the children but gave them back to Nawal when she was released. The nurse wanted to hold Jian and Simon, but the twins are shocked by the news. They thought Nawal gave birth to their brother in prison, not them. 4 kids running with plastic bags through the rubble. When they come to the open, the oldest acts as a lookout before leading them out there. They continue to do this until one of the children is shot. The shooter is Nawal's son. He's sitting on a balcony, the 3 dots on the back of the foot evident. Maddie tells the twins he has traced their brother, Nihad May, to an orphanage in Kfar Ayat. When the war broke out, the orphanage was destroyed. Maddie says that it's impossible to find any records beyond the orphanage. Maddie also says that he knows a warlord in Daressa who might know where Nihad May is, so Simon and Labelle head to Daressa. The warlord acts suspicious, but says he doesn't know Nihad May or Nawal. Simon's back at his hotel when 2 people knock on his door. They tell him it's about his inquiries, and he has to go with them. So Simon calls Madadi, who tells him to go with him, and he'll follow. Nawal's now out of prison, climbing into a car on a lonely road. The man in the car thanks her for her service. He says he'll reward her by helping her and her children leave the country for America. So Nawal leaves. Simon's taken to a room where he's blindfolded. He's asked why he wants to see Nihad, and he explains the situation. He's asked to remove his blindfold, and it turns out this is the real warlord. He tells Simon that Nihad was a great soldier, but he had a great yearning to meet his mother. After a while, Nihad went to Daresh in the heat of the war. He killed 7 opposition fighters before he was captured and taken to the Kfar Ayat, where he adopted the name Abu Tarek. Jan finds Simon in a daze in his hotel room. When she asks what's wrong, he tells her their brother is their father. Jan is shocked. Back at the pool, Nawal and Jan swim. Nawal's at the edge of the pool when she sees something. It's a tattoo of 3 dots at the back of a foot. Nawal gets out of the pool to look closer. The person turns to her, and it's the man who raped her in prison, though older now. She's shocked. The man, who clearly doesn't remember her, asks if he can help her. But she doesn't say a word, walking past in stunned silence, and goes and sits down. Part of the things the warlord tells Simon is that Nahad May lives in Canada under a new name, Nahad Harmani. The twins find Nahad in Canada and hand over the letters to him. Nahad reads both with despair as he realizes what he's done. In LaBelle's office, Jean hands them another letter from their mother, this one addressed to them. The letter's touching, and both Jan and Simon are crying by the end. Nahad stands in front of a newly erected tombstone with Nawal's name inscribed on it as the movie ends. Incendies was released in 2010, produced by Microscope. Stars in the movie are Lubna Azabal, Maxime Gaudet, and Remy Girard. If you were Nawal, and you found out your son was the father of your children, would you confront him or send him letters? Send us your replies in the comments with the hashtag CinemaRecaps.